Jumpin' In on Manx Radio.
With Howard and Chris Kane.
Hello.
Good evening.
And welcome. And indeed, a very happy new year. Welcome to 2026 here on Jumpin' In. As we're heading forwards, we're going to be looking back in all the best in modern contemporary jazz with myself, H.
And me, Chris. Yes, Blind Vine Noah, everyone, if we're still able to say Happy New Year, as we're over a week into 2026 already. Yes. And it's part one of our Pick of 2025 shows. Not an easy task. I started with what I considered a conservative list of favourites, which I noticed weighed in at around 3 hours before I pruned away. And my picks certainly don't necessarily follow the lists in Jazzwise or Downbeat or whatever list you like, based more upon albums that I've returned to throughout the year. In fact, I removed all the albums that were listed in top lists by everyone else, as 2025 was such a rich year for jazz releases that I, for sure, and probably H as well, still have many yet to be listened to in full and shared with you. So, H, where did you start? I should tell you, I went all the way back to last January. And what criteria did you use to sift your choices into just 2 shows?
No, it's very easy for me. I think I follow, well, not easy, but yeah, I take your point. It's exactly what have I gone back to and listened again, listened in the car, gone back and played favourite tracks. Some of them do coincide with some other lists, particularly from Jazzwise, the perhaps Britain's best-known jazz magazine.
You see, I knocked all mine out.
I don't get them. No, it's a case of if I gone back to them, fine. There are some on the list there I don't go to, but otherwise, what have we got? Well, a bit of a Paul Cornish exaggerating, Mary Halverson, I like her more and more as the years go by, someone we saw at London Jazz Festival, and also some classic, really enjoyable re-releases from times gone by.
And from me, well, we spring, we remember, we drip, but in a special way. So here's the Quentin Lourdes Big Band with Walker Tower. The Quentin Lourdes Big Band and Walker WARKA Tower, taken from their debut release Humankind, which I have to say has been a favourite for me since I got it and regularly in the car. Aged just 30, trumpeter, composer and teacher Quentin Lourdes, who hails from Paris area, has already 3 releases with his funk project, which he started when he was 17, a quintet, this debut release from his big band. He says Humankind is a big band project that traces recent history and original compositions written in response to recent headline events. The appearance of the Hunger Stones in Denmark in 2002 and the creation of the 2015 Walker Tower project in sub-Saharan Africa to provide drinking water. On the cusp of entering the third millennium, the world was torn between the hope of a bright future marked by technological revolution or the fear of seeing the planet slowly die, he says, to which we can add an increasing risk of further conflict, I think. The 22-piece band will debut the work live on the 12th of February, so if you find yourself in Paris, nip along to the Café de la Danse near Bastille Metro. And if you don't know what the Hunger Stones or the Walker Tower project are, look them up. Very interesting.
Yes, good sound, and great to hear big bands still going strong in the 21st century. And it's such a nightmare getting everyone together, and economically, I'd imagine, a non-starter. And yet, there seems to be a plethora of them, so it gives you hope, yet it has to be said. We're looking back at some of our favourites from the last year, an awful lot of them, so we'll do a couple of programmes worth, I think, before casting forth into 2026, by which no doubt will be albums behind, stuff that's been sent to us. And this album did appear on a few lists, not in the top part. It's Mary Halverson, the wonderful guitarist. I admit, the first time I heard her, I didn't really get her, and some of her earlier albums, Code Girl and such like, didn't really push my buttons at all. And then of late, she's been incredibly prolific with the Amaryllis group, and those I've really enjoyed. The more I've been listening to her now, the more I have been enjoying it. One which did go right up to the top on quite a few lists, certainly in jazz-wise, was her duo with Sylvie Courvoisier, Bone Bells, which I listened to, I downloaded and listened to much earlier in the year, and I enjoyed, I have to say. I haven't gone back to re-listen yet. I didn't see it doing as well as it did in quite a few polls, and certainly in Britain, but I'll go back and have another listen. But I did enjoy About Ghosts, which Mary Halverson brought out with her group a little bit earlier in the year, dedicated to Susan Alcorn and featuring Adam O'Farrell, Patricia Brennan, Thomas Fujiwara on drums, Emmanuel Wilkins on vibes and such like, the Amaryllis Plus, or the Amaryllis Sextet, plus a few guests as well, I think. And this track is the last one on the album, called, appropriately enough, Endmost. Frenetic ending from Thomas Fujiwara on the drums. It's just the straight sextet, actually. I added a few in there for extra there when I was talking beforehand. It is just the straight Amaryllis sextet. Adam O'Farrell trumpet, Jacob Garchik on trombone, Mary herself on guitar and pocket piano. I think that's a toy piano, isn't it? I don't know what's there. Patricia Brennan on vibes, Nick Dunstan bass, and as I say, Thomas Fujiwara, who's been her regular drummer for some time. She seems prolific. Again, I'm hoping we are going for the first time ever this year to the North Sea Jazz Festival. Woohoo! It's going to be very exciting. I think we're going to be overwhelmed. There is just so much all on at the same time in a massive hangar the size of a small planet. We're just going to be jazzed out in minutes. I'm hoping she's going to be playing there because I've never actually seen her. As I say, the more I've listened to her, even though she seems to bring out 2 or 3 albums a year, really enjoy it. It's always fresh. Instantly, that knack of sounding fresh and unique, and yet quite often instantly identifiable Mary Halverson on guitar. We'll see if we maybe have a chat with her at some stage, I don't know. About Ghosts, definitely on my list.
And was indeed on the Jazzwise list, amongst other lists as well. Now, I'm looking forward to it too, of course. The only thing about being whelmed or indeed overwhelmed is that there's only so many concerts you can see at the same time, which I think is going to be our biggest problem.
That's going to be an issue.
We'll be sitting in the bar most of the evening trying to argue what we should have been to rather than what we went to, but there we go. Now, all the main labels have really excelled in the last year, I think, and we thank the press agents for letting us hear and share with you. I mean, such a variety of great music, much of which, as I say, we haven't got around to yet. But of course, it's not just been new releases, but quite often first issues of archived material. And we were very fortunate to have 2 releases from the late, great pianist John Taylor. Tramonto on ECM, which was a live gig, and this one, which is probably my favourite of the 2, on Cam Jazz, Close to Mars. Here's something that we hope is coming sooner rather than later, spring.
Absolutely wonderful stuff. A bit of a twofer there for you. So that then was just Keith Jarrett, recorded live in September the 16th, 1992 at the Deer Head Inn, which is where he pretty much started out, and he'd gone back there to play. It's still a jazz venue to this day, I believe, and he'd started playing there as a very young man before he was well known. And he went back to sort of play, I think, a benefit and support and, get people to go back there again. Must go there myself sometime. I believe it's still a jazz venue. Jack DeJohnette couldn't make the gig, so he played it with his old drummer from years before, Paul Motion on drums, and the great Gary Peacock, of course, on double bass. Amazing the difference that having Paul rather than Jack on the drums made. A wonderful set, originally brought out just called Live at the Deer Head Inn, and then, amazingly, in 2025, they brought out more from the Deer Head Inn, which they called the Old Country. More often than not, when this happens, it's sort of offcuts or sort of also rans or things that have been rejected earlier on. Very unusually, if anything, this album was better than the first in my view. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. Just floats along, some great tracks on it. Straight No Chaser, Someday My Prince Will Come, that track there, Golden Earrings, and a wonderful version of the actual title track, The Old Country. Thoroughly recommended that one.
Fantastic, and of course, sad I never got to see him live, but we were just discussing how many cupboards are stuffed full of stuff which may be better or may be lesser, who knows, but there's a lot of material. Pretty much every gig, I reckon, is recorded in high quality these days. Before that, we heard Spring from the John Taylor Trio, released Close to Mars, which was on the Cam Jazz label, a studio recording from 2006, only seeing its first release, and it is well worth the wait, and it serves as a great posthumous tribute not only to John on piano, but also, sadly, to Palle Danielson on bass and Martin France on the drums.
All gone.
All
Amazing.
gone far too soon, I'm sad to say, but with fantastic recorded legacies. And incidentally, the ECM release Tremonto is also worth checking out, and that's a live set. And that was recorded in 2002 in Birmingham with another terrific rhythm section of Mark Johnson on bass and Joey Barron on the drums.
And I don't know if you spotted, by the way, that I saw Jazz in Britain say they've got something they're going to bring out. John Taylor again.
There's another John Taylor
coming out in
coming
2026.
I'm sure there are lots and lots of cupboards bulging with fantastic material. Next up from me, another drumming legend, Billy Hart, who at 86 is still going strong, although he did have a bit of a health wobble in November when we had hoped to catch him with Aaron Parks at the London Jazz Festival. And far from slowing down, he has 2 releases from his quartet this year. If you think they sound almost telepathic, it could be because they are after 20 years together. Here's the title track from the first release of the 2, Just, released on ECM beginning of the year. Lovely stuff. Just the title track from the first of two releases from the Billy Hart Quartet last year. On the ECM label with his regular quartet, Mark Turner on sax, Ethan Iverson at the piano, and Ben Street on the bass, and the album with, of course, Billy Hart at the drums, and just the title of the album. The other one, Multi-Directional, sees the same band live, working through a totally different set on the Smoke Sessions label, and that came out just before Christmas.
Terrific stuff. You are listening to Jumpin' In with Chris and myself, H. We are looking at some of our favourite albums from 2025. There's lots of them, and I'm not exaggerating. This is Paul Cornish. Just a little taster there of another one I've really enjoyed. VJ Iyer and Wadeda Leo Smith, Defiant Life on ECM, a track called Sumud, and I had the great joy of seeing them live, purely by fluke, at the Wigmore Hall when I was down in London a little bit earlier on, doing exactly this. Great to see them doing it on the stage, because it sounds such a studio-based album. But no, they do it live exactly like this. Not one for the car, as they say, but a lovely late-night track if you're thinking, or have got something to write, or such like, or just want to dream and listen to the music. Before that, another one which didn't make the list, but from Blue Note, who are on a real purple streak at the moment, a DB song from You're Exaggerating by Paul Cornish. Paul on piano, Joshua Crumbly bass, Jonathan Pinson drums, Jeff Parker on guitar.
And now my final choice for this week is an album from the Russian LRK trio, formed back in 2014 by drummer and composer and painter Ignak Kratsov, along with pianist Evgeny Lebdev and bassist Anton Revnyuk. They describe themselves as not an ordinary jazz trio with a pianist. In fact, it's an open-ended lineup performing with string quartets or invited soloists or entire ensembles. Lebdev on piano and keyboards and accordion, Revnyuk on both acoustic and electric bass, and Kraslov on a variety of modern timbre and rhythmic effects added to the drum kit. Their new release, LRK Orchestra, sees them, not surprisingly, with a full orchestra. We'll leave you with a track dedicated to Lyle Mays they call Mr. LM. More on the next show.
More indeed. See you
Bye
then.
for now.